Hey, this is Bill Vernon, your Keller Williams agent for the Central Texas area. And of course, this is our weekly call with our mortgage team member that's works now. She is separate from the I-35 group, but she's a team member when we are involved in your transaction. And so we got Samantha. Hey, Samantha, how you doing?
Good morning. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing good. Got an action-packed day. It's really interesting. I don't know about on your end. This is February that we're talking, and typically Februarys are kind of slow. It almost drops off, and we used BC before COVID. We used to have these waves, and you knew, oh, February. In fact, I'm going to family reunion, the big KW convention. Why is it in the middle of February? Because that's one of our slow months, right? February, August is when we go to these big conventions, right? I don't know about you, but man, there's a lot of work going on.
It's a little crazy right now. Let's see. We got over the last 2 days, we've gotten 4 contracts. So that's it's awesome. I'm not upset at all. It just was it's a little busier than I expected, which is great. I love everybody wants to be in a new home. COVID has done that for us. Everybody, we realize how important our home is to us, and we want it to be a place we want to be.
Right, right. And so we're here to help that happen. And it was kind of interesting in our conversation. Samantha and I do actually plan these conversations. And you came up with a great topic that when you said it, I was just like, yeah, we really do need to talk about that. Because in my conversations, it comes up. I'm going to let you introduce the topic.
Well, we were talking about the difference between the actual value of your home, which is what you would sell it for today, and the assessed value as determined by the county, what you pay your taxes on, versus the value you find online.
Right, right. So these are great, great conversations we're about to have. Now, I want to be careful here. I'm a licensed real estate agent. There we go. I'm dyslexic. I was doing it wrong there. I am not an appraiser. So, in street terms, everybody uses the term value. Technically, I love this when we have these conversations about value. I don't give you value. I can't give you that. That's an appraiser, which is part of what our conversations about.
Which is a whole nother dollar amount.
Yeah, how they figure it up. And so I want to be careful here that I am not going to give you a value on your home because I'm not licensed there yet. But let's talk about what you're about this. What do you hear from your clients when they're discussing this with you?
There are some clients who come to me, and mainly I work with buyers. So, they come to me and they will tell me they looked up the value of the home in the tax records and they're not going to pay more than that. Which that's a great concept. But
Can be.
The assessed value right now is running very far behind the actual value because we've had so much appreciation in the last 2 years. But the assessed value isn't necessarily an actual appraisal. Nobody came in the house and looked at it and looked at the improvements and the maintenance and all that. The assessed value is, based on the taxes, and a home that someone's owned and had their homestead exemption on for 20 years, maybe a couple $100,000 behind the real market value.
Right. So let's first talk about, and again, this is a general conversation. This is not specific to you.
Correct.
If you want that kind of conversation, you need to reach out to me, and we can sit there and talk about you. I had an investor client back in the day. When he went to buy a property, I knew when we walked out to that property to see it and make an an assessment of the property. See, I was using the term too, and I'm not supposed to. And so we walked out there. It was a 30-minute conversation about the tax assessments of that neighborhood. I mean, I just knew that when he started on the rant, that I just went to parade rest and sat there and listened to him about this. And because he would pull the records and would say, "Oh, that guy over there." Okay. And a good example of that is my wife. My wife goes and fights our valuation because one of our neighbors, which is, I live out in the country, is a little further down. We have roughly the same square footage house. And guess what? He has a Mac Daddy house. You know why I know he has a Mac Daddy house? Because I sold that house. So I know all the cool stuff, and it does. It has Mac Daddy, everything. I mean, the people that owned it were great DIY people. I mean, it was just.
And they did it right.
Yeah. And they did it right. She was just crazy fanatical about perfection. She's a perfectionist to the hilt. Okay, so I know that house. Then when that house sold, that gentleman evidently told the county how much he paid for. FYI, this is a non-report state. Texas is. We do not have to tell government officials how much you paid for your house. In the state level. Let me kind of preference that. And so that is not discussed with them. In fact, certain people pay money to protect that right for you. We have tax in that fight for that. So the moral of that story is basically a valuation that a county is assessed. Is it fair? Is it the same on every property? And the answer is no, because why? This guy does not fight it, but this gal does. Okay.
That's a huge distinction because, the county sends out a letter when the house changes hands and asks the new homeowner how much they paid for it. And it looks really official and it looks like they should respond. But people need to understand that's voluntary, and you don't have to respond. Let the county do their homework and let them figure it out however they determine they're going to do it. But if your house assessed at $250,000 and you paid $400 for it, there's no need to tell the county that you paid $400 for it.
Yeah,
they'll figure it out.
No legal liability, a legal responsibility for you to report that. I should say legal.
Correct.
And be careful. I'm not an attorney. I'm a real estate agent. So you just made a great point. County, depending on what county you're in, a certain county in my area that I sell a lot of real estate in, they're really slick about it. They start asking you, what's your cat's name? What's your favorite color? I mean, crazy questions that you're kind of like a good citizen, because my clients are all good citizens, feel compelled to give that information because it seems pretty out. And what's your cat's name? Well, that's not going to hurt. And then in the middle of it, they go, "Oh, and by the way, what'd you pay for your house?" No, you do not have to. You do not have to do that. Now, I also want to be careful here, Samantha. To get to my office today, I had to drive on county roads. Okay. I'm not one of these guys that's anti-tax. The IRS does not need to come and audit me because, my rules with my accountants are follow, give me the deductions that I deserve, but don't go be creative. I don't want any creative going on. You have a certain person in your life that does that kind of work. I feel that as a citizen, I do want to pay my fair share, but I also play by the rules. And so, the assessed value of your house to the county does not mean anything. The only reason I go look at your county records is to make sure you actually own that property, and to get kind of the square footage and that kind of info in the legal description. After that, I don't look at the assessed value.
Well, and as a lender, I look at the assessed value because I want to know what you're going to be paying in taxes so I can make sure that you can afford your house.
Right.
Having a lower assessed value is always nice, but a lot of people confuse assessed with actual value of the home. I mean, how do you, when you're talking to a client, you're talking to a seller, how do you help them determine what they're going to list their house for? How do you help them get to that number?
Well, first off, and buried in this is going to be a nugget for real estate agents. First off, Bill never tells a client what they should price their property at. I give them my professional opinion of 12 years of doing this at a high level. You can kind of go, hey, Bill sells, his team sells a lot of real estate.
You guys do. I mean, you've got experience and your team has the experience, and very rarely do I see appraisals come in low on your sales.
Yeah.
You guys just, you know how to price, you know how to help coach these sellers.
Right. And I love what you say, coach. My thing is I don't deal with idiots. I actually deal with very high level thinking people, but this isn't their gig. It's back to, using you as our mortgage person on our team. You do this at a high level. And I know we're sitting here stroking each other's ego, but really, people, she is going to be able to help you through this because this is what she does all day long. Back to me. My clients do turn to me and go, well, what do you think we should price it at? And I do give my opinion. Actually teach them how I do this. And by the way, people, I sell my own properties too. And so I use what's going on here. But here's the deal. I present the information to them, and then we come up with an educated guess. Because after all, and here's, I'll underline and bold it. Here's the big secret of real estate. The market sets the price.
Absolutely.
Samantha and I don't get to set the price. You, future seller or buyer, do not really get to set the price. The market sets the price. And because, gosh, I wish I got to set the price. Yeah. What do you think a house would sell?
But you're pulling the information from houses in the area, and you're telling them, hey, other homes in this area have sold for this amount, but you're not, you don't pull houses from Dallas and Houston.
Not even across the street. It's funny. I'll tell a little short story. Man, we're chewing up a lot of time here, but with Bill talking stories, here's the deal. My first listing was a older house that was built in the 40s. When you walked in, the wood floors were like this. You had to take Dramamine to walk through it, right? And across the street was a brand new subdivision. Houses were going in, at that time, again, I'm 12 years into this, we're going for about 180 to 170, okay? All day long across the street. Guess what my client wanted to price? Oh, because she put granite countertops in the kitchen and painted it. Guess what she wanted for this 40s house? That foundation. Later, we found out the plumbing was totally shot. Guess what she wanted for her house?
180,000.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, okay. And at that time, I wasn't as sharp as I am now. I went, okay, let's do that. We didn't sell a house. And also, by the way, that was during, the great housing crash. So there was another reason. And so the moral of that story is, yes, you're right. You don't pull from across the street, even.
Well, and to put it in perspective, the housing crash was in like 07, 08. We are definitely not in a crash right now.
Now we're in a total different kind of scenario. And really, to cut this short on this topic, this part of our discussion, because I seriously can sit here and talk to you for an hour about pricing. And if you're one of my clients, mainly because you ask me the questions and I answer them, if you just shut up and I just did my spiel, it's 15 minutes. But, clients ask these great questions to be educated. And so, yeah, we're there for probably an hour, sometimes 90 minutes, because they're asking great questions, typically about, guess what? Pricing. And so they'll get a long class. But going back to our main topic about the assessed values on taxes, has nothing to do with what we're going to sell your house for. Don't even look at it.
And I mean, here's the other thing I see is these guesstimates you find online. You can go online to any website and it'll say, what should I list my house for, or what's my house worth? You can ask you can Google it and get 50 websites that'll be glad to tell you what the guesstimate, and I use that term very loosely, of your house is. The reality is those are based on nothing.
So I love what and we're not going to drop any names because, as we said in a previous episode, sometimes it's funny listening to Gary Keller talk about this. Back in the battle days, he dropped their names. He'd flat out go, blah, blah, blah company is doing this, and this is why it's wrong, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Recently, I've noticed he's had to stop doing that because guess what they did? They started threatening to do? Sue him.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. They're going to haul him into court. And yes, he's a billionaire and can afford going to court. Guess who can't? So you and I are going to be careful not to drop any names. So these estimates that you're getting are they're jacked. I wished. And what's amazing, if they were so great at their estimates, why they out of certain businesses now, right? That, if you assume they were using the same information they are giving you, which again would be asking for a class action suit if they did not, I'm assuming that they were doing the right thing and giving you their information they would act on. It's just, you can go and listen to other videos that will talk to you all day long about how jacked that information is. And I'm not saying that because it's out of self-service. My information and what I'm going to share with you at a listing appointment or as a buyer consultation is coming from actual facts that I'm going to show you, where those estimates, like you said, are just not
well, they're coming from, they're coming from public records. They're coming from tax records. They're coming from, what people might have listed their homes for. And that brings us back to the same topic. If they're working with a real estate agent who doesn't know the market, they're not listing appropriately. They're not listing at the right prices, at the appropriate price point, I guess.
Yeah, you're hit on another thing. We're chasing all these rabbits here. You're hitting on something very important. In this market now, especially with these regional MLSs, for instance, if you go onto my website, you can see things in Victoria, Texas. How far is Victoria, Texas from us? Is that a 4-hour drive?
I think it's about 4 hours. Yeah.
Okay. And it's funny here as Texans, we don't give you the mileage. What do we just give you? the time. Okay, Texas giving you time, right? So it's a 4-hour drive to Victoria, Texas. Do you think Bill knows if a highway is about to go through a subdivision in Victoria, Texas? And the answer is
Probably not.
no, I do not. I and my brokers, man, she's fanatical about this, and there's a lot of reasons why. You only sell in the area you know about. So if you come to me, even though I'm technically in a brokerage that's based in Georgetown, Texas, guess what? I will not sell you a house in Georgetown, Texas. Why? Because that ain't my stomping grounds. And so the moral of that story is you see a lot of agents that are selling stuff that is not in their turf, not in their area. And I would be very careful as a buyer and a seller not to use those people. If they're not willing, what they need to do is refer you out to an agent in that area. So that
Absolutely.
was chasing a rabbit there. But the moral of that story is I have the information and the experience to help you in a certain area. Whereas what you were just saying, those estimates, why do we know how much Tom Cruise paid for his Malibu house? Because California is a report state. They do require you, and it is public record, and we know how much, but we don't know. We kind of guesstimate how much, and he's in the news right now with Joe Rogan. I think he got his name right. Joe Rogan's in the news right now. He supposedly paid like something like 14 million. He bought some big house in Austin. We really don't know how much Joe paid for his cool house. And it is a cool house, by the way, in Austin, Texas, because we're not a report state. So the valuations, back to what you're saying is,
now if he fills out the letter from the county and tells them how much
and then we got a problem. Hopefully his agent will coach him to throw that in the garbage. The only time I would want to give the county the information on how much, if I bought my house way below, guess what? Their appraised value. Then I'm all about reporting. Okay. But
which is something that we've run into before. I mean, there were like 08, 09. We were actually counseling people, hey, take your appraisal to the county and show them that the appraiser deems your house to be worth less than they have it on the records for.
Yeah. This is why I bought this house for this. Here's my HUD 1 back in that day.
That's true.
Now. Here's my HUD 1. This is what I paid for this hacienda. And yeah, there you go. So that's the only time you report that information. And back to what you just said, is appraisals. You in the lending business are not you go send out an independent appraiser. We don't want to go, man, we could spend an hour on talking about how that process works.
Yeah, let's not go too far on this one.
Yeah, let's. But they are looking at the same information I'm looking at. An appraiser. Mm-hmm. We'll save that for another time, talking about appraisals in the lending biz. But the moral of that story is even then they're kind of looking behind. And we have to sometimes help them see a little not ahead, but in that time frame that house is being
and understand, even an appraisal by a certified licensed appraiser is still an opinion.
Yeah, it is.
It's still an opinion because every house is different, and it's still an opinion. So I mean, the important thing is, when you're looking at selling your house, or you're looking at buying a house, you need to turn to the professionals who have the access to the information. And that's you. That's not looking online at whatever guesstimate there is. That's not looking at the assessed value by the county. That is literally using their agent as exactly what their agent is supposed to do. You're a resource. and you've got the access to all that information. They need to trust your professional advice.
Yeah, and how to interpret the information. So what are you giving me? I mean, I'm in an office that I have family businesses and stuff. There's a wall between me and the accounting department over there. They hand me stuff all the time, and I'm like, okay, what is this P&L? I'm kind of not really telling the whole truth, but let's pretend that I have no clue what that P&L they're handing me. And in fact, I'm using an old term, P&L. They sit there and like, oh my gosh, Bill uses P&L. That's a good example of my inability of accounting. I will sit there and go, okay, so what's this? What is this? These pages you're handing
Break it
me?
down for me.
Yeah, telling me, what's our cash flow? Is this good cash flow? Is this bad cash flow? Where are we at? That is what you're saying. I am for is to help you interpret the market and to place this in a great place when we're pricing. Because my goal really, and again, this is kind of chasing another rabbit. My goal really is to sell your house within an hour. Okay.
And price correctly, you can.
There you go. Thank you for saying it. Okay. In theory, if I price your property right to where it is, the market price, it will sell when? Like that. And some people will go, well, wait a second. You didn't do enough work here. You sold my house in 24 hours. You didn't do any work. No, did a whole lot of work to make sure you're what? Priced so that you would sell. Back to your buyer side. Hey, buyer, we want to, this is what you need to write your offer so we're successful and to getting it closed. So, back to our main part of our topic, which is county assessments. God bless county people. Again, their job is to get as much taxes as they can so the county can do what the county needs. And your job as a good citizen is to make sure that you pay your fair share. Well, and I can't believe I just used that because it's kind of a loaded term.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Here's the thing for me is people oftentimes confuse those values and those opinions of value. And at the end of the day, if you're looking at buying or selling, your agent is the one who can help you decipher some of that, understand it, and and set the prices the right place. On the buyer or seller side, your agent is the one who's going to tell you, hey, they've listed this house for 165. I really think it's probably 170 is what the market is at right now. If we want to get this house, especially in our multiple offer situations right now, rely on the agent, rely on that professional to help them determine that. I see people all the time who want to sell a house. I'm gonna list my house at 250,000. Well, yeah, but everything in the neighborhood is sold for 210. They're not listening to their agent. And this is a great conversation to have because you are an agent. Your team is full of real estate agents who are very well trained in this. I've been to some of your classes. You guys know how to interpret that information. So I'm going to have to run here shortly, but Bill, how can somebody get in touch with you or your team?
Yeah, definitely,
if they
because
want
we
to
could
talk
talk all
that.
day long. Yeah, they can reach out to me multiple ways. Here's my phone number. The best way is 254-495-5661. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more great content like you're watching here. And don't forget to make comments if you have questions and to like this. And if I wanted to talk to a great person that deals with mortgages, how would I contact that person?
You know what? You would call me, Samantha Jackson with Guaranteed Rate at 254-624-4307. That is my personal cell phone. So you could text, you can call. You'll reach me pretty much all the time.
There you go. We look forward to talking to you guys next week. Bye now.
Thanks, Bill. Bye-bye.